Nathan would never forget that day. It was a blindingly bright Monday morning in New York City, the kind of sunshine that cut through the office window blinds, slicing across his desk. The desk was a landscape of last-minute financial reports, contracts, and a softly glowing laptop. The office was silent, yet Nathan's phone was a vibrating menace. Emails, missed calls, a constant, pulsing reminder that today was not going to be simple. He stood by the window, staring down at the frenetic pace of the city, yellow cabs zipping, pedestrians rushing, but inside him, time had stalled. His heart hammered, a crushing weight settling in his chest. Today's meeting with Ryan, his co-founder and longtime friend, would determine the future of Avalon Designs, and potentially Nathan's entire career, reputation, and even his personal life. He took a deep, shaky breath, trying to slow his pulse, but a cold premonition whispered that things wouldn't go his way. The moment Nathan walked into the boardroom, the air thickened, becoming almost viscous. The large room, with its wall of glass overlooking Midtown Manhattan, suddenly felt sterile and claustrophobic. Ryan was already there, his eyes bright, his confident smile carrying a challenging, unreadable edge. Olivia, the coup, and Nathan's fiancée stood at the far end of the table, her gaze sharp, full of doubt and scrutiny. Nathan felt every motion, every silent breath. Everything signaled an impending, calculated betrayal. Nathan laid his hand flat on the stack of contracts and financial reports, forcing a sense of calm he didn't feel. His voice was steady but firm. "Let's get this show on the road." Ryan offered that smile again, but it was anything but warm. It felt like a silent gauntlet being thrown. Nathan knew everything was on the line now. Everything could change, permanently. Ryan opened the meeting with a tone that was casual yet razor-sharp, presenting the latest numbers, growth strategies, and profit margins. Nathan listened, but his mind was a whirlwind. He watched every glance, every gesture, every calculated pause. Each minor detail slowly brought the picture of betrayal into stark focus. And then Nathan spotted it, an unaccounted-for, significant investment he had zero knowledge of. His heart slammed against his ribs. The tension was a cold burn spreading through his body. Ryan glanced at him, his smile still intact, but now openly defiant. Olivia frowned slightly, but remained silent. Nathan knew one wrong word, one panicked move, and it would all crash down. Ryan leaned back, delivering the line that seemed to freeze the entire room. "Nathan, I think it's time we reevaluate the controlling interest and equity stake in the company." His tone was conversational, yet the words were like a physical blow. The air in the room became so heavy Nathan could barely draw a breath. Nathan scanned the faces around the table, colleagues, partners. Everyone was tense, but no one spoke. Every indrawn breath, every averted eye, seemed to hint at a deeper, hidden truth. He flashed back to the years of building the company from scratch. The long nights spent with Ryan, the strategies, the plans, the dreams all now threatening to unravel in minutes. Nathan felt his pulse spike, a cocktail of fear, rage, and a sudden fierce will to fight. He inhaled deeply, gripping his hands under the table, a silent vow ringing in his head. "I will not let this crash today. I need the truth, no matter how hard it hits." As Ryan finished emphasizing the profit numbers, Nathan could practically see the gears of the conspiracy turning, slowly but surely. It was all unfolding in slow motion, a high-stakes scene no one could look away from. Nathan knew this was just the opener. What happened next would determine the fate of not only himself and Avalon Designs, but also his relationship with the people he once trusted implicitly. Nathan stayed rooted in his seat, his eyes locked on Ryan, feeling the air in the boardroom grow heavier with every passing second. Ryan kicked off the real debate with a deliberately casual, almost gentle tone, yet every word was a stoner direct hit to Nathan's trust and authority. Olivia, at the far end of the table, clutched her tablet, her gaze a mix of confusion and suspicion. Nathan knew she was far more clued in than she let on, and that knowledge ratcheted up the tension. "We need to re-examine the equity breakdown," Ryan stated slowly, his voice cool and devoid of warmth. "Specifically, certain investments Nathan hasn't been fully briefed on." Nathan's heart seized up. His entire body tightened. If Ryan was questioning his competence, or worse, orchestrating a hostile removal, this was the moment of truth. Nathan took a measured breath, fighting to maintain composure, but a surge of anger, hurt, and anxiety made his hands clench the documents on the table. Ryan pressed on, his presentation smooth, each word a calibrated strike. "We can't afford to ignore these differing perspectives. A quick decision is necessary before things get messier." Nathan felt the weight of every syllable, a simultaneous challenge to his self-confidence and a test of his resolve. He exhaled deeply, his voice coming out slow but rock solid. If anyone wants to change the rules of the game, I need all the data. Every single number needs to be transparent. No decisions are going to be made based on assumptions or personal agendas. Ryan offered a slight smile, this time undisguised in its challenge. Nathan, you're always focused on the details. But in business, sometimes you have to roll the dice, he countered, his eyes shining with a cryptic intensity. Nathan felt the boardroom walls closing in, the pressure mounting on his shoulders. Every word, every glance was a calculated test of his standing within the company. He briefly looked at the other members, some nodded, some frowned, all remained silent, watching his reaction. No one was intervening. Their silence screamed that this was a mental cage match, and Nathan was in it alone. The silence that followed was suffocating. Nathan could practically hear the desperate pounding of his own heart. He remembered the years of relentless sacrifice, the all-nighters spent strategizing, the brutal negotiations with partners. All of it threatened to crumble in minutes. He swallowed the bitter heat of his anger, the silent mantra repeating, I can't let this fall apart today. I need to get the truth, no matter the cost. Then, Ryan slid a thick folder across the table toward Nathan. Nathan, this is proof of several transactions you were never fully informed about. I think you need to look this over before you make any snap judgments. Nathan opened the file, page after page of reports, cryptic emails, and jarring figures. A cold dread crept up his spine as he realized the full extent of the lack of transparency. Ryan watched him, his calculated smile in place, as if anticipating Nathan's exact reaction. Olivia let out a soft sigh, but Nathan didn't have time to reassure her. He knew every move now mattered. One misstep could destroy the company, his career, and his relationship with the people he once trusted. Absolutely. Nathan flipped through the documents, unexplained expenditures, strange email threads, financial decisions he had been completely sidelined on. Each detail felt like a sharp stab of betrayal, but he fought to keep his emotions caged. He needed patience. He needed to analyze. Every action, every word, would determine the outcome of this meeting. Ryan suddenly leaned forward, emphasizing a figure in a report, his tone calm but cutting. If the company isn't adjusted immediately, there will be a change in controlling ownership. Nathan's heart twisted. Everything he had built, every strategy, every dream, was now on the table, and a single decision could ruin it all. Nathan closed his eyes for a split second, taking one last deep breath, reminding himself, stay sharp, stay calm, find the truth. The boardroom was quiet, yet the pounding hearts, the shallow breaths, the intense stares all created an unbearable pressure. Nathan felt it vividly. This was only the first round in the battle for power, trust, and revenge he was about to face. And he knew that what happened next would decide the destiny of himself, of Avalon Designs, and of everyone involved. Nathan opened the folder Ryan handed him, each page feeling like a dose of cold dread poured into his core. Internal emails, undisclosed investments, financial decisions he had been utterly blindsided by. The cumulative evidence screamed that Ryan had cut him out. A primal part of Nathan wanted to lash out, to flip the table, but logic forced him to choke it down. Ryan watched him, his gaze steady, his tone still irritatingly calm. I think you should look at the details carefully, Nathan. Certain decisions had to be made without waiting for approval. I can't stand by and watch the company be put at risk. Nathan looked up, meeting Ryan's eyes dead on. The heat of fury was rising, but he kept his voice level. Risk. I built this company from the ground up. Nobody gets to make unilateral decisions without my knowledge. Ryan offered that cool, challenging smile again. And I'm not saying you're wrong, Nathan, but when so much equity and control is involved, we have to consider all possibilities. Nathan felt his heart rate spike, his breathing becoming shallow. All eyes in the room were glued to him. Olivia looked at Nathan, her face etched with worry, yet still maintaining her cool composure. Nathan realized she was stuck between two forces, him and Ryan, and she would have to pick a side soon. He flipped to a specific page in the folder. The numbers were clear and professional, but what stopped Nathan cold was a tiny line of text. Approved by Ryan without Nathan's consent. A cold blade of betrayal sliced through the years of trust he had invested in his friend. Nathan felt his face flush. His hands tightened into fists on the documents. Part of him was screaming to jump up, yell, and confront Ryan right there. But he squeezed his eyes shut, inhaling deeply, fighting for control. He knew if he exploded now, he would lose, even if the truth was on his side. Ryan gave a slight, dismissive shrug. his tone light yet utterly challenging. "You see, Nathan, maybe it's time to think about clearer delegation of power. We can't afford any more delays." Nathan held his breath, realizing this wasn't just a heated argument. This was a calculated, planned betrayal, and he was the target. He glanced at Olivia. She said nothing, but her eyes seemed to convey a silent, desperate message. "Be careful." The silence lingered, heavy like an imminent storm. Nathan knew that if he didn't strategize, if he let his emotions govern him, everything he had built could collapse in minutes. He took one last, deep breath, centering his mind. Every move, every word he uttered from this point on, was critical. The meeting continued. Ryan presented new ventures, potential investments, subtly filling the strategic gaps Nathan thought he still controlled. Everything was orchestrated with finesse, technically legal, but successfully boxing Nathan into a defensive corner. Nathan understood now. This was a meticulous plan, not a spur-of-the-moment impulse. And then, in a quiet moment, Ryan lifted his eyes to meet Nathan's. His voice was calm but sharp. "Nathan, I want you to decide for yourself. But if you can't agree, I already have other options ready." Nathan felt a sharp stab in his chest. The betrayal was no longer suspicion. It was an undeniable reality standing right in front of him. He knew today was the pivot point, where all his trust, power, and career hung on the edge. Nathan inhaled deeply, closing his eyes one last time. The vow ringing in his head, "I won't let anyone take this away. I have to play the long game, and I have to win." Nathan sat ramrod straight, his eyes locked onto Ryan. Every breath in the boardroom felt suffocating, every minute sound echoing in his mind. The numbers, the reports, the emails on the table were no longer mere data. They were cold evidence of a betrayal, each a silent, clinical stab hidden behind Ryan's placid smile. "You think you can control everything, Nathan," Ryan began, his voice even but chillingly sharp. "But in business, sometimes the individual doesn't matter, only the company's best interests." Nathan felt his heart hammer, his breath catching in his throat. Part of him wanted to stand up, scream, and confront Ryan right there, but his discipline held firm. He took a measured breath, noticing every detail: Ryan's unflinching gaze, Olivia's guarded posture, the tense silence blanketing the surrounding colleagues. "I don't accept anyone making decisions without my knowledge," Nathan replied, his voice level but forceful. "If this company is a shared asset, every action needs transparency. No one has the right to operate behind my back." Ryan let out a cold laugh, this time a clear, direct challenge. "You think you're still in control, Nathan, but certain power dynamics have already shifted, and I'm simply protecting the company." Nathan felt as if every brick in the boardroom walls was pressing down on him. The pressure wasn't just from Ryan, but from all the observing eyes. One mistake, one emotional slip, and he would lose control. One rushed decision and years of effort would be meaningless. He opened the folder Ryan had provided, flipping pages, his eyes tracking every line. The unapproved expenditures, the secret transactions, the specific emails Nathan had been deliberately not copied, and all served as a stark warning. Ryan had meticulously prepared his ambush. Olivia let out a barely audible sigh, but Nathan knew she was wrestling with loyalty and fear. He realized that to save Avalon Designs, he needed not only to beat Ryan but also to protect the trust of his team, and perhaps his relationship with Olivia. Ryan smoothly highlighted specific numbers, new projects, and potential investments, subtly maneuvering Nathan into a defensive position. Everything was cleverly presented, technically legal, but strategically placing Nathan on the back foot. This, he realized, was a carefully orchestrated plan, not some random impulse. The silence dragged on, heavy like a looming disaster. Nathan felt the betrayal clearly and irrevocably laid out before him. He inhaled deeply, closing his eyes once more, centering his focus. Every action, every word he was about to deliver, was crucial. Nathan turned to the next page of the file, seeing unauthorized investments Ryan had made, along with internal emails proving Ryan had contacted investors and partners before Nathan even knew the moves were being made. The feeling of being fundamentally betrayed surged, but Nathan knew if he let emotion rule, he would lose. He needed to be calm, observant, and calculated. Ryan abruptly slammed his hand flat on the table, his voice calm yet razor-sharp. "Nathan, you think you can hold all the control? Prove it, if you dare." Nathan took a slow, deep breath, his hands gripping the documents. His eyes flared with renewed resolve. This was the turning point, where the war for control between Nathan and Ryan truly began. There was no retreating, no room for weakness. Nathan had to be sharp. He had to strategize. And he had to win. The silence stretched on, broken only by the faint rustle of papers as Nathan turned a page, the click of a laptop, and the measured, tense breathing of everyone present. Everything emphasized that after today, no one would stand where they stood before. The eyes in the room seemed to scrutinize every small action, every gesture, every inhale. Nathan realized Ryan was testing him, testing Olivia, testing everyone. And in that moment, Nathan knew the real power play had just begun, and what happened next would decide the fate of the company, his career, and his relationships with those around him. Nathan took one last deep breath, the vow ringing in his head, there is no other option. I have to fight, I have to win, and I have to keep everything. The meeting was over, yet Nathan remained motionless, his eyes glued to the folder Ryan had handed him. The air in the boardroom still seemed to hum with the intensity of the recent confrontation. The numbers, the emails, they all spun relentlessly in Nathan's mind. An inexpressible, crushing weight settled over him. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was a solid, chilling reality. Nathan finally rose, taking a deep breath to quell the immediate rush of anger. He knew he couldn't let emotion override logic. Every reaction now had to be calculated. He moved toward the door, glancing around the room. Olivia was still standing there, her eyes worried but also challenging. The other staff were silent, saying nothing, but Nathan felt their scrutiny on his every move. Out in the hallway, Nathan's phone immediately started buzzing with messages from close colleagues, asking for a read on the meeting. The texts came in a flurry, but Nathan didn't reply. He knew a rushed answer could trigger chaos. He needed to think, to strategize his next move. Ryan caught his eye, his voice flat yet razor-sharp. Nathan, today was just the opening act. Every decision has consequences. You'll be seeing them unfold soon enough. Nathan felt a sickening twist in his gut. Those words weren't just a challenge, they were a warning. He realized the betrayal wasn't confined to investments or equity. It was a psychological war game, one where Ryan anticipated his every move. Back in his private office, Nathan quietly opened his laptop, staring at the reports and emails. Every number, every data point, matched the dossier Ryan had presented, confirming the intricate level of deceit. He closed his eyes again, inhaled deeply, the internal command clear: stay focused, plan. I can't lose the company. I can't let Ryan win. Olivia walked in, her voice low and laced with worry. Nathan, are you okay? I don't know where I'm supposed to stand right now. Nathan looked at her, his eyes blazing with determination but softening slightly for her. Olivia, I won't let anyone destroy everything we've built, but I need you with me, following the plan, step by step. We can't afford to rush anything. Olivia nodded, but Nathan could see the flicker of hesitation in her eyes. Trust was being tested, and Nathan understood that his relationship with Olivia was being stretched to its absolute breaking point. Immediately after, his phone began vibrating, constantly texts from colleagues, emails from partners, even calls from outside the company. It was a small but persistent wave, enough to overwhelm Nathan's concentration. The inquiries, the probing eyes all reflected the immediate fallout of the meeting. People were starting to doubt, and things were already starting to fracture. Nathan's resolve hardened. Every action from this moment forward was critical. He needed to anticipate every step, predict every countermove, and prepare his defense, because the consequences weren't limited to the boardroom today. They were spreading, impacting the entire company, the staff, and the belief system between him and the people he had once trusted implicitly. With a tight grip on his mouse, Nathan opened the financial statements, internal communications, and active project time. Every number, every decision, every relationship had to be scrutinized. He knew the aftermath of this meeting would linger, but he also realized this was the moment he needed to fight his most significant mental battle yet. The silence in the office became heavy with purpose. Nathan closed his eyes, took a final deep breath, and whispered to himself, today was just step one. Stay sharp, prepare. I can't give Ryan the advantage. I have to win, and keep Avalon Designs. The meeting was over, yet Nathan remained motionless, his eyes glued to the folder Ryan had handed him. The air in the boardroom still seemed to hum with the intensity of the recent confrontation. The numbers, the emails, they all spun relentlessly in Nathan's mind. An inexpressible, crushing weight settled over him. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was a solid, chilling reality. Nathan finally rose, taking a deep breath to quell the immediate rush of anger. He knew he couldn't let emotion override logic. Every reaction now had to be calculated. He moved toward the door, glancing around the room. Olivia was still standing there, her eyes worried but also challenging. The other staff were silent, saying nothing, but Nathan felt their scrutiny on his every move. Out in the hallway, Nathan's phone immediately started buzzing with messages from close colleagues, asking for a read on the meeting. The texts came in a flurry, but Nathan didn't reply. He knew a rushed answer could trigger chaos. He needed to think, to strategize his next move. Ryan caught his eye, his voice flat yet razor-sharp. "Nathan, today was just the opening act. Every decision has consequences. You'll be seeing them unfold soon enough." Nathan felt a sickening twist in his gut. Those words weren't just a challenge. They were a warning. He realized that betrayal wasn't confined to investments or equity. It was a psychological wargame, one where Ryan anticipated his every move. Back in his private office, Nathan quietly opened his laptop, staring at the reports and emails. Every number, every data point, matched the dossier Ryan had presented, confirming the intricate level of deceit. He closed his eyes again, inhaled deeply, the internal command clear: "Stay focused, plan. I can't lose the company. I can't let Ryan win." Olivia walked in, her voice low and laced with worry. "Nathan, are you okay?" "I don't know where I'm supposed to stand right now." Nathan looked at her, his eyes blazing with determination but softening slightly for her. "Olivia, I won't let anyone destroy everything we've built, but I need you with me, following the plan, step by step. We can't afford to rush anything." Olivia nodded, but Nathan could see the flicker of hesitation in her eyes. Trust was being tested, and Nathan understood that his relationship with Olivia was being stretched to its absolute breaking point. Immediately after, his phone began vibrating, constantly texts from colleagues, emails from partners, even calls from outside the company. It was a small but persistent wave, enough to overwhelm Nathan's concentration. The inquiries, the probing eyes all reflected the immediate fallout of the meeting. People were starting to doubt, and things were already starting to fracture. Nathan's resolve hardened. Every action from this moment forward was critical. He needed to anticipate every step, predict every countermove, and prepare his defense. Because the consequences weren't limited to the boardroom today. They were spreading, impacting the entire company, the staff, and the belief system between him and the people he had once trusted implicitly. With a tight grip on his mouse, Nathan opened the financial statements, internal communications, and active project time. Every number, every decision, every relationship had to be scrutinized. He knew the aftermath of this meeting would linger, but he also realized this was the moment he needed to fight his most significant mental battle yet. The silence in the office became heavy with purpose. Nathan closed his eyes, took a final deep breath, and whispered to himself, "Today was just step one. Stay sharp, prepare. I can't give Ryan the advantage. I have to win, and keep Avalon Designs." The next day, Nathan walked into the grand conference room with a completely different mindset. The previous feelings of confusion or passivity were gone, replaced by cold, determined, yet utterly confident resolve. Each of his footsteps echoed on the wooden floor, emphasizing that now, he was the one in control. Ryan looked at Nathan, his eyes still sharp, but Nathan noticed a hint of doubt lurking in his opponent's gaze. He had prepared all the data, all the evidence, and every possible countermeasure. There were no more surprises. Nathan opened the meeting, his voice steady yet sharp. "Today, we will make transparent every decision, every investment, and every action that has occurred without proper notification. Step by step." He presented the file, leading through each number and each email, clearly proving that Ryan had made certain decisions behind his back. Ryan tried to maintain a calm tone, but Nathan clearly saw his every reaction, his eyes narrowing, his breathing quickening, and a few small gestures that betrayed his stress. Nathan capitalized on every detail, every action of Ryan's, steering the meeting in his favor. Olivia stood beside him, supporting Nathan by presenting the verified data she had gathered, reinforcing Nathan's arguments. The colleagues, who had been hesitant before, now gradually leaned toward Nathan, clearly sensing his strong determination and meticulous preparation. Nathan continued, "All power, all decisions, and all shares must be transparent. Anyone who attempts to manipulate the company through independent actions will be held accountable." Nathan's voice was firm, every word emphasizing his authority, yet he maintained his composure. Ryan challenged one last time, "You think you can control everything, but no one can predict my actions." Nathan smiled faintly, his tone calm but cutting. "Today, all of your actions have been proven, Ryan. There are no more surprises. and from now on, I will be the one to lead Avalon Designs." The meeting ended with a heavy silence, but this time, Nathan felt a clear spiritual victory. Ryan bowed his head, his eyes showing acceptance, while Olivia looked at Nathan with renewed trust. The other colleagues also gradually settled, sensing that the company had found strong leadership once again. Nathan lingered for a moment, looking out the window. The afternoon light shone into the office, reflecting the resolve on his face. He knew that everything was not completely over, but today, he had regained his authority, the trust and control. With his confidence restored, Nathan silently vowed, "All the hardships, betrayals, and challenges were merely stepping stones to make me stronger. Avalon Designs will thrive, and this time, I will lead it with both heart and mind."